What if embracing your guts changed your life, or at least led to an ideal job? In this video, I'm going to share a story of a coaching client I worked with last year who put herself out there and landed her ideal job. Next, I'm going to share the psychology of why so many people remain stuck and what it means to have courage in order to grow. And then finally, I'm going to end with a real world example so you can lead a more expansive life. Before we get started, however, welcome. My name is Colleen Canny. I am a career and executive advisor as well as an HR professional. I work one-on-one with individuals to help them embrace their guts in order to achieve their goals. And the reason this particular topic around guts is so important to me is because I hear from individuals regularly who tell me, Colleen, I have this dream of starting my business, or I have this dream of taking on a new hobby, or I have this dream of a project I want to start, but I don't have the guts. And frankly, it breaks my heart. I'm like, what if more people, embrace their guts in order to create positive change, not only in their lives, but the world? And so that leads me to the story of Sarah, I'll call her, not a real name, a client who contacted me last year after she was laid off. For any of you watching, you know that when you lose your job, either through a layoff or being fired, it really hits hard. There's a lot of shame that comes up. You wonder if you're not good enough, talented enough, young enough, AI proficient enough, whatever it may be. Fill in the blank. You think, I'm not enough. It really can take time to grieve and to heal and move on. I share this because when I met with Sarah, she was honest. She said, I am not ready to dive into my job search right away. And so we worked on building up her confidence. And then after about a month or so, I talked to Sarah about her job search strategy. And I said, what about announcing on LinkedIn to your 3,000 connections that you are looking for a new job? I said, I bet there are many of your former colleagues who would love to help you. And Sarah looked at me like I was crazy. Sarah was very honest. She said, I'm a private person. I'm not active on LinkedIn. I observe. I don't post. I was like, okay, that is fair enough. I said, but know that there are people who do want to help you. I know it because I've seen this happen time and time again with other clients who find out, oh, so-and-so is laid off, and they'll share job leads with them. And so what Sarah and I worked on over the course of a number of weeks were baby steps. Because at first Sarah was like, hell no, I am not going to post anything on LinkedIn. And over time, Sarah said, I'm going to start with commenting on other people's posts. Then Sarah said, oh, that's not bad. I can do this. So she took an AI course and she shared her thoughts on the AI course. People were receptive. She received positive comments. And Sarah said, I think I have worked up the courage to announce on LinkedIn that I'm looking for a new opportunity. Sarah did. And the results were pretty startling. She received over 300 interactions to her post. People are liking, they're hearting, they're all doing the whatever you can on LinkedIn, basically acknowledging her posts, reposting it. And then Sarah also received a number of comments. I think there were 60 saying, Sarah is such a fantastic employee. I highly recommend her. Or, oh, Sarah, good luck. I know that you'll be an asset to your next employer. Or, Sarah, sorry to hear about your layoff. Let me know if I can help. The best thing, however, is that one of Sarah's former colleagues reached out to her and said, Sarah, my company is hiring for a leadership role. I think you would be a great fit. Would you be open to me referring you? Sarah was fast-tracked for this leadership role and received an offer. Starting salary, $250,000. And I want to make this clear here. Sarah went from, hell no, I'm not posting on LinkedIn, she's laid off, to landing a $250,000 a year job because of 15 minutes worth of effort, crafting a LinkedIn post and announcing that she was open to new opportunities. It took guts, but what Sarah said is, here I was so worried about judgment of others. I thought people would look down upon me because I was laid off. And she said, actually, the polar opposite happened. She's like, I have felt so much support, so much love, and I'm just like shocked. And so this is such a good example of what happens when we step out of our comfort zone, which leads me to the 3 zones of learning, which was inspired by a Soviet psychologist from the 1930s named Lev Vygotsky. I'm going to share my scrappy visual, bear with me, that explains the 3 zones. We're going to start with the comfort zone. This is where everything's easy breezy. You're going through your routine. You're not growing because you're not challenging yourself. When we use Sarah as an example, she stayed in her comfort zone by not being active on LinkedIn. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with not being active, no judgment, but when you're a job search, it really helps if you're active. And so over time, however, Sarah realized that it may be helpful to move into the challenge zone. We can think about this zone as the stretch zone, where you're learning new skills, you're meeting new people, you're doing things that force you to grow. Because when we are courageous, when we do things that are like, oh my, I don't know what's going to happen here, that's when we see the growth. For Sarah, this meant that she started liking other people's posts. She then started commenting on other people's posts. And finally, she wrote her own post on LinkedIn that led to the high-paying job. Finally, the 3rd zone is the panic zone. And this is where there is overwhelm. Like, it is such a big leap from the comfort zone to the panic zone that you are paralyzed. So using Sarah as an example again, this would have looked like, okay, day 1, Sarah is laid off. She is devastated. She is trying to process what just happened. And she forces herself to say, I'm going to make a video about my layoff. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn. Like, hell no, right? I mean, there's just too much of a gap, and that's not Sarah at all. Being a private person, like not really using LinkedIn, she wouldn't have done it. It's just too much. And so I share these 3 zones because it really helps to consider why people remain stuck. First of all, the comfort zone, it is warm and fuzzy and it feels good to stay there. Like, we're going through our life, we go to work, we watch Netflix, we do the same thing, but we may be bored. We may feel like, is this it? We may be wondering, like, what are we doing with our lives? We're just wasting them. And so I want you to think about how you can challenge yourself to move into the challenge zone. Think about different areas of your life, from relationships, could be money, your career, your overall social life. Maybe you don't have one. A lot of people, I think, are looking to expand their friend network and meet others. And I want you to think about, okay, you're in the comfort zone. What would it take? What would it take to move into the challenge zone? One thing that you can do. I'm going to use the example of getting in shape because I think the majority of us, myself included, could relate to getting more exercise, being in better shape, moving more, getting in the steps. If we stay in our comfort zone, this could mean we're not working out at all. We're eating our favorite salty or sugary snacks while sitting on the couch for 5 hours a night. It could mean maybe we're doing an easy walk, something we've always done, and we're noticing like, gosh, the pounds are really piling up, or doctor's like, you need to lose some weight. We're feeling out of breath when we walk up the stairs, whatever it may be. And by the way, I just want to be clear, like I've had my own times where I'm like, woo, the clothes are not feeling real comfortable. Like I'm eating too much homemade caramel corn. So, I just like, hey, like we all have times where it's like, oh, I better get moving. So the comfort zone is like just staying comfortable. Then if we think about the challenge zone, this could look like you hire a personal trainer. My mom just told me like she would love to learn how to use the weights at the YMCA. However, she's intimidated. She doesn't know how to use them. And so for her, she is going to work with a personal trainer to help her. Now, if she didn't, she would stay in her comfort zone because she wouldn't want to walk into the weight room not knowing what to do. It could also mean that you join a group exercise class because you want to get in shape and you want to meet new friends. Like, hey, that's fantastic. You can do both things at the same time. Or it could mean that you decide to challenge yourself. Like 5 days a week, you're going to hit 10,000 steps, your dog's going to be happy, and you're going to feel elated, or at least in better shape. Then we think about the panic zone. This could look like you sign up for a marathon that's a month out. Unless you're a former collegiate cross-country runner, a former Olympic athlete, having a month to train for a 26.2-mile race, probably not real smart. I mean, I don't know, go for it. I love big, ambitious goals. But for most people, especially non-runners, like, no, you may not show up at the starting line because that duration of a race would be too overwhelming. It is so important to take small steps towards your goals. I see one person after another that I work with who remains stuck until we have this conversation of like, look, you don't need to go out there and give the TED Talk if you're terrified of public speaking, or you don't need to go out there and meet the man or woman or person of your dreams by talking to random people at the bar. If you want to do like some warm-ups with speed dating, or you know what, like overnight, you may not be in the best shape. It's going to take some time and you'll work towards your fitness goals. So I want to hear from you. What did you think about the 3 zones of learning? What are you going to do? What is your goal? How are you going to move out of the comfort zone, a zone that many of us can find ourselves in year after year? You don't want that. So thank you all for watching. I'm so happy you joined. I would love to hear from you. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one to embrace your guts, reach out. Until next time.